Why should Republicans go directly to Washington, D.C. on the heels of the greatest landslide in my lifetime and then immediately backstab Donald Trump with their first votes, Steve?
Well, folks, it's only been 1 week and MAGA world is already cannibalizing their Republican leadership from the inside out.
This is the first Republican vote since the mandate, and they're voting to put in an anti-Trump option in John Thune, a man who said that Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
All right, a lot to unpack here, from formerly anti-Trump Senator John Thune setting MAGA world ablaze by beating out the Elon Musk-backed Medicare fraudster and James Bond villain Voldemort half-breed Rick Scott to replace Mitch McConnell as the Senate Majority Leader, to the fact that even MAGA House Republicans are already salivating for a dictatorship.
There's no question he's the leader of our party. So now he's got a mission statement, his mission, and his goals and objectives, whatever that is, we need to embrace it. All of it. Every single word. If Donald Trump says jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, we all jump 3 feet high and scratch our heads. That's it.
Right, and if Donald Trump says to deep throat his microphone, we make sure to cup the balls and swallow like good little choir boys. But thankfully here, folks, there is a sliver of silver lining that will break down. So drop a like, subscribe to the channel, because as much as this all blows harder than Trump at a rally, we need to talk about it and fight back, now more than ever. So let's start with a little background on the Darth Vader to Mitch McConnell's Emperor Palpatine that is Senator John Thune. Here's a video posted by MAGA House Representative Anna Paulina Lunatic, where she decries John Thune and the already fractured Republican choice of leadership, saying Senator John Thune has consistently shown that he does not support President Trump's agenda, and his track record reflects that. The Senate deserves a majority leader who is committed to serving the will of the people, not the uniparty. I believe that leader is Rick Scott. The irony of someone who defrauded Medicare recipients serving the will of the people is obviously lost on Looney Luna here, but this video reveals why Thune may just be the best case scenario for House Majority Leader for just that reason, because he is one of the only potential checks on Trump's legislative agenda.
Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. Would you support him?
Well, I'm hoping, Leanne, to have other options.
A verdict in the Trump trial could come next week if he's convicted. Could you support him still?
I'm not. We'll see how the trial comes out. I'm not weighing in on that.
President-elect Trump involved in does he have a chosen preference in the Senate? Do you know?
Honestly, I think my preference would be, and I think it's probably in his best interest, to stay out of that. These Senate secret ballot elections are probably best left to senators.
Right, so he's decently anti-Trump, which, you know, it doesn't mean very much. Look at J.D. Vance, look at Marco Rubio. But here's the thing. While MAGA declares a populist victory and prepares to drain the swamp and fill Trump's cabinet with underqualified outsider loyalists to help dismantle the bureaucratic bloat of federal government, Senate Republicans have moved to elect the most establishment, by-the-book, MAGA-hating anti-Trump senator as their leader in a behind-closed-doors secret vote.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
And MAGA is already losing their shit.
John Thune pushed literal Democrat hoaxes against Donald Trump. He said he hopes that Donald Trump doesn't run again. They shared stories calling the MAGA movement a cancer on the Republican Party. And these are our two options? What exactly the hell is going on here in the United States Senate, Steve? It is a despicable insult to the American people that that senators are considering voting for either John Thune or John Cornyn, but most importantly, they're doing it in the dark of night, in the cloak of secrecy. And they're upset that we were able to hunt down the actual whip count.
Oh boy, new enemies within list just dropped. I guess Senator Thune was right on the money when he called MAGA a cancer, because nobody is safe from it.
We're able to hunt down the actual whip count. And I spent all weekend calling. I said, there's no way we're going to go out without a fight here. I spent all weekend, because I know how Washington, D.C. runs, Steve. I worked there for 15 years. I worked on Capitol Hill. I've seen the government up close. I've seen these McConnell Republicans up close. And I know you have too. And I said, I'm not going to, if I can report out who's voting where, then we'll show the American people where the actual loyalty is. And it certainly is not to President Trump.
And what you'll also see from my patriotic reporting that's sure to have zero consequences is all of those senators' home addresses. And I'm certainly not suggesting anyone make a Paul Pelosi house call to any of these traitors against the will of Trump. In Trump we trust, amen. But you never know when someone might need a handyman with a hammer.
You'll see some shocking names like Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Marsha Blackburn on the list voting against Tim Scott. And the reason why this is important is because it's not about voting for what your constituents want. It's about voting for your own power. The way the Senate works is every one of these senators have been promised something, and they get what they've been promised if they simply vote to continue McConnell's leadership. And mark my words, Steve, that is exactly precisely what is going on here.
What? The Senate operates on quid pro quo? Nobody has any allegiance in the Republican Party to anything other than their own self-interest? That is so fucking obvious to anyone who's paid a modicum of attention to politics for the last 40 plus years. But therein lies the problem, because nobody has been, folks. We have, and you have, and that's why this week has been so devastating. But one thing I've noticed in talking to people the last week is that a lot of people have not been paying attention and will be reaping what they've sown for years to come. And look, while the Democrats have a lot of soul-searching and shit-packing to get done themselves for abandoning progressive policy and supporting the needs of everyday Americans, the Republicans are going to be infinitely worse, due in part to the incompetence of their cult leader and his cabinet of loyalist morons, but also due to the competence of elitist establishment Republicans who will gridlock useful legislation. Here's John Thune saying the filibuster ain't going away.
Will the legislative filibuster remain unchanged under your tenure?
Yes.
And on top of that, they will continue Mitch McConnell's horrendous record of packing the courts and cementing this country into the downward dystopian Christo-fascist spiral it's been on for years.
John Thune is a direct continuation of McConnell's power. One senator told me this weekend that these senators, Thune and Cornyn, are pets. They're pets of McConnell. Call them a pet. Say they're on a leash, and they'll come when called, and McConnell walks them like a dog.
Sure, I mean, Mitch McConnell won't be walking much of anything. He can barely stand, but I get the metaphor.
And so that is exactly what these senators are voting for, and it is a betrayal of their Republican constituencies.
When the fuck are people going to realize that constituents are the last thing Republicans care about representing? Especially now that they are chilling for the next 2 years. They don't need your vote. They don't need your support. Hell, they already got all your money too, you chump. But that is where the silver lining lies, folks. It is not exactly a solace right now to say that the night is always darkest before the dawn when we're not even minutes to midnight yet on the disaster that is barreling our way. But if we know anything from Republican incompetence and Trump's ridiculous cabinet picks already, it is that the MAGA civil war will continue as bad as it was before, if not worse. That's not good for the American people. We all know that. But apparently, some people need to feel pain before they learn their lesson, and that is exactly what will happen. So as MAGA world destroys itself from the inside out, we need to regroup, rethink, and fight to stop the chaos from allowing these fascists to push our country further to the right while building up the progressive left into a movement, not a party, that fights for the working class, for Americans, for people, for an end to genocide, for economic reform and class consciousness, and against the rich and elite. And we have to do it now. The time for remorse is over. It's time for reflection and rebellion. So join the resistance and help us educate and enlist for the battles ahead. Because when MAGA tears themselves and this country apart, we need progressives to be ready to pick up the pieces and put this thing back together. Not for party, not for power, for the people. And for Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.